All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have a few more jump in as we get going. Let's see if I can get you all on my screen. All right. So our first session this morning is on Google Meet, and we'll just kind of go over a quick run through of the different tools that you have inside of Google Meet. I know several of us use Zoom during distance learning, and I know some use Canvas conferences. This upcoming school year, we're actually going to be using Google Meet. It is part of our G Suite for Education suite of apps, and we already received this for free. So, or it's part of our apps already. So we're not going to have to pay anything additional. Whereas Zoom and Canvas conferences will not have a free version this upcoming school year. So that was the decision for switching to Google Meet. It is seems to be a very simple virtual conferencing tool. So you'll see the first slide that I have up is my Google Meet norms. This is something that I would suggest that you use with your students because it just kind of sets the tone for how you want your presentation to go and your lesson to go. The first thing you want them to do as they enter is to mute their microphone. Right now, there is not a functionality in Google Meet that will let you mute them upon entering your session. That is one of the updates that should be coming out soon. So as of right now, if you were having a live session with your students, you would want them to know that as soon as they join the Meet to go ahead and mute their microphone. Because if not, if you have several students join at once, it can get pretty loud. The next one I have is raise your hand, and that seems kind of silly for us right now, but since we are all on mute, instead of everyone kind of hopping in at the same time if you have a question, students will have a little extension that has been pushed out to them that will give them the option to click an icon, and it will raise their hand and alert the presenter that they have a question. So then you could either unmute them or they could unmute themselves once you're ready for them to ask. And then the last two are for these sessions that we have going right now, and that would be while you're going through this, think of how you can apply these tools in your classroom. Because that's the whole purpose of this. We want you to walk away from these sessions and have something that you can instantly implement in your class today. And if you have your own ideas or how you could use these things or how you maybe have previously used these tools in your classroom, please share out with the rest of us so that we can all join and share all of our knowledge with each other. So let's just go ahead and jump right in. I wanted to start the session with showing you the updates that are coming out with Google Meet. Right now, it is a much simpler platform than Zoom. It doesn't have quite as many of the tools that Zoom has available right now, but they're telling us that these are coming out. They have not released a date as of when they're coming out, but we're very hopeful it'll be before school starts in the fall. So some of the new updates will be they're improving the moderator controls, so it'll give you more control over who and who cannot enter the session. So I'm hoping that means a waiting room. They're also going to let you be able to control who is able to speak during your session. Right now, the creator of a Meet can mute a participant, but the creator cannot then go and unmute them. You would have to have the students unmute themselves. So hopefully that will be one of the updates that's going to be changed. You'll also be able to replace your background, and not necessarily just a virtual background, but it will let you actually blur some things in your background if you don't want those visible to those participating in your Meet. And then you can also replace your background. One of the absolute favorite tools that a lot of people have been talking about that they had in Zoom is the ability to have breakout rooms. So what that is you can actually have all of your class in one meeting, but you can create smaller groups for them to go in, and you can send certain students to certain groups. So you have small group instruction, or maybe you want them to do some little collaborative work. You can actually use what's called breakout rooms. So that will be coming to Google Meet also, as well as a digital whiteboard. So I know those of you with either our younger students or our math teachers that would like to be able to show how to work out a problem, that digital whiteboard will really come in handy. And then as you see, this is the raise your hand feature. We actually have one pushed out to students right now. It's through a Google extension. All students already have access to that. It's called the Nod extension, and we'll talk about that later on in this session. But it just gives them the ability to give you a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or the raise your hand feature. And once they click on the raise your hand, an alert will come up on your screen. Another cool update that they're adding is the quick polls and Q&A. So you can actually hold some quick polls and question answer sessions inside of your Google Meet. So that would really help in getting some feedback on how your students, if they're understanding what you're presenting or if they're needing some additional help. That'll be a neat way to do that. So those are coming up. Obviously, you all joined a Meet today, so that's good. And I'm not sure how you chose to join the Meet, if you went through the Canvas course or if you joined from your Gmail, but there are 3 different ways to join. Right now, we can join from our Google Mail, and you'll see on your left side menu in Gmail, now you'll see Start Meet and Join Meet. So if you're wanting to just create a new meeting, then you will just click that Start Meet. If you're joining a meeting, you would just need that join code, and you could join directly from your Gmail. The calendar invite is also another way. If the creator of the Google Meet session has added that to your calendar, you can join directly from Calendar. And we're also going to look at how to create a Meet from Google Calendar today. And then we can always go to meet.google.com, and that will give you the same option of joining a Meet or starting a Meet. Okay, so you all joined today. Let's kind of go back and look now at how you could actually start a Google Meet session in case you've never used this platform before. So, and as we're going on, I also want you to be aware that everything that we see is also what your students see. So our join screen right here is exactly what they see on their device also. They have the join now, or if I don't believe they have the ability to start a meeting, but they can actually join, and that's what that'll look like right there. Okay, we're actually going to come back to that in just a second. Let's look at how to create your own Meet. So if you could all open your Gmail on your device, you can just start a new tab. And I'll actually share my entire window with you so you can see exactly what we're going to see. Okay, so now let me change this real quick. Give it just a minute. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. I'm still on my Google Meet session, but I'm going to go into my email. Once it loads. Okay, there we go. And so now you'll see over on the side right here underneath, if you have any labels created, you'll see Meet, and you can start a Meet or join a Meet directly from here. Since I've already started a Meet, I'm not going to click that, but you could also join directly from email. I actually prefer to create my Google Meet sessions directly from Google Calendar. That way, if I wanted to go ahead and send invites, I could do that in there. I could also specify the time that they would want to join. So let me show you that version. So now you can go to your Google Calendar. And since there are only, it looks like now we only have 2, Ms. Chisenhall and Ms. Wastowski. If you want to unmute your mic so that you can ask questions as we go, you're perfectly fine doing that because we don't have too many attending today, so it shouldn't be too loud. Okay, so let's look at calendar. All righty. Are you seeing my screen, my calendar? calendar. Okay. So from calendar, I usually just create mine directly from this create button, just like you would any other calendar event. We'll do demo. You'll see this blue button right here. I think I'm going to get an echo. Just a second. Just going to mute you guys just so you don't get my echo in your mic. Okay, so this will also help you when you're ready to jump over into Canvas and do the 2 activities for this session. So when you go into Google Calendar and create a new event, I'm going to just title this a demo meet because I'm not going to use it for anything. You can go ahead and select the date. And if you have a specific time that you want them to join, you can add that here. And then you'll see this blue button that says Add Google Meet Video Conferencing. All you need to do is click that button and it creates a Meet code for you. So you could join with this Google Meet session right here, or you can now copy this code. And I would just do right click, copy. And you can actually paste that in an email. You can paste that in an assignment, in your Canvas announcements. You can paste that anywhere you need, and your students would then have access to that Meet code there. So if you have not looked yet, in that Canvas assignment to get your credit for this session, it's going to ask you to create a Google Meet using any of the versions that we talked about, and to get this Meet code right here. And all we need you to do is copy that. So highlight it and you can click Control-C or even just right-click copy. And you're going to paste this into your assignment. And I'll show you exactly how to do that in just a minute. And then this is also the same code right here. So you can either highlight this one and copy, or this meeting ID and copy that. It's the same thing. Okay, so once you have all of these things created, you could also, if you go to more options, you can invite people directly from your calendar invite, or they can just join with that Meet code. So I'm just going to click Save. So that created my event. So while we're on that, let me just go ahead and finish showing you exactly how you will submit that into your assignment. So this is what your assignment looks like in Canvas. Now, if you have not submitted any assignments in Canvas, it can be a little bit confusing at first. It looks like this button right here would be what you push to actually submit something right away, but that's not the case. To get to a place where you can submit your assignment, you actually have to push this blue button first. So once I click Submit Assignment, you'll see now that this box has popped up down here. The first, or the default box, is going to be a file upload. And we don't have a file to upload for this particular assignment, so I'm going to choose text entry. And now you'll see I get a text box right here. So remember, we copied our Google Meet link already. So all I have to do now is paste that directly in this text box. You can add comments to it if you want, but we don't need any for this assignment if you don't have any to add. And then you would just click Submit Assignment. Once you do that, if you see this confetti falling, that means you have submitted your assignment correctly and it has already come over to us. So that is as easy as it is to submit that particular assignment. If for some reason you realize that you maybe submitted the wrong link or the wrong information, if you click Resubmit Assignment, it'll take you right back to that process and you can redo it and add whatever it is that you might need to add. The last piece of this particular session is the discussion board. And so you'll see up here at the top, you would just read the discussion prompt and respond to it. Once you reply with your response, you'll then be able to see the other responses from the rest of the participants in the course. So you can always, comment back to them if they share an idea that you like, or if they ask a question, you are more than welcome to help answer their questions. Okay, so now let me go back to my my presentation so we can look at all the tools within Google Meet. Oops, sorry. Okay, so this is a lot of information, but I wanted you to be aware of everything that you have available to you inside of Google Meet, what all of these buttons mean. Okay, so the first one that you're going to see is the People tab. If you click on this little icon at the top, it's going to give you a list of the people in the session. Oops, sorry. And then the button directly next to that is your chat box. One thing to know is that your students will see that chat box right now. We're hoping that's one of the updates that they come out with later on to where you might be able to turn that off to where that's not even an option. Right now, it is not, you're not able to turn it off, but they do not have the ability to send private chats. You know, like in Zoom, they can send a private chat. They can just choose one of the other participants and have a little private chat going that you're not a part of. In Google Meet, that is not an option. Whatever is typed into that chat box will be sent or will be available for everybody. And then at the end of the Google Meet session, that chat box is recorded and you get a transcript of that and who typed it in the chat. So just in case you need that, that is available. Okay, you also have the ability to present your screen, obviously, like what I'm doing, and you can also record the meeting. So to do that, down at the bottom of your screen, where you would find your mic or your video, you're also going to have these three little buttons. They're kind of hard to see here. You have to hover over the bottom of your screen until it pops up. Right here will say present now. And then once you're presenting, obviously I can't click it because I would quit presenting, but it'll say when you click present now, it gives you three options. You can present your window, your entire desktop, or a Chrome tab. One thing to note on that is that if you're wanting to have audio play for your students or your attendees to be able to hear, the only way to make that possible is to present a Chrome tab. You cannot present your entire desktop or even the whole window. You have to actually just present one tab. So if you've got a video you want them to watch in that presentation and you choose Chrome tab and click play, then they'll be able to hear everything in that video. Okay, so then there's these three dots next to present now. We're going to kind of jump ahead a little bit on that one. That is where you're going to find your record meeting. You can also change the layout. If you don't change your layout manually, Google Meet will just do a auto layout. And so they decide according to what is happening in the presentation, what they believe the best layout would be for you. You can go full screen. Another cool tool in Google Meet is that you can actually turn on captions. So if you've got students that need to be able, maybe they can't hear, maybe their internet connection isn't that great, but they can actually see what's happening in the meeting, you could turn on those captions and it will record word for word everything that you are saying in the captions. And then you have access to that later too. The settings, once you click on settings, those are really just the settings for your audio and your video. So you could switch if you've got an external mic that you want to use or a different webcam that you want to use. That's where you would change those settings there. And then like most other video conferencing tools, you can use a phone for audio. And once you create your meeting, it'll give you the phone number and the meeting code that they would enter to be able to join by audio. And then you have your standard report a problem and help if you need some additional assistance there. Now, down at the very bottom, you should all know what the little microphone and the camera mean. Obviously, if they do not have the little red slash through them, that means your mic is on and your video is on. You can click each of those to turn those off and they'll just turn red and you'll know that those are disabled. Now, to leave a meeting is this little telephone right here. One thing that you need to keep in mind is in Google Meet, the teacher needs to be inside, does not need to leave the meeting until all of the students have left. If the teacher leaves, then they've got that little bit of time where they can actually still stay in the meet and talk to each other or do whatever. And that's just not something that we want to be a part of. So if you've got students that are hanging around and not leaving on their own, you do have the option as the presenter to remove them from the session. And that is just by going and clicking on their name. You'll see a little drop down, and you can actually click a minus sign and it will kick them out of the meeting. And then this last part is meeting details. We don't have too much in our meeting details right now, I don't believe. It may just be the join. Yes, the join information. But if you create your meeting in Google Calendar, you can actually add attachments to your meet. So if you had a presentation you wanted them to be able to access, or an article, maybe a link to something you want them to go to during the meet, you could add all of that here and it would show up for your participants. So they would have access to those links directly instead of having to go type them in themselves. Okay, so that is your interface. On here, this slide is just showing you how you can actually remove a participant, how you can mute them. You can also pin a participant. So if you want them, this is really useful if you've got more than 16 participants. And you want a couple or some of them to show at all times, you can actually pin those participants, and then that way they don't kind of get lost in the shuffle. You can kind of keep a better eye on those participants. Okay, so the next few slides are just some different extensions that you'll have access to. Some of them have already been pushed out to your Chrome browser, and some of them we just kind of left them up to you to decide if you would need them or not. This first one is called Dual-less, and this is very helpful on devices like Chromebooks, where it may be a smaller screen than your desktop. And what it does is when you are presenting something, normally if you are presenting in Google Meet and you have that one screen open, to be able to see what you're presenting, you would have to have actually two screens or two windows open at once, and two tabs open, I should say. If you use this Dual-less extension, you can choose the ratio of the screen sizes that it will show you. So you could have your presentation in a smaller screen, or maybe the participants in a smaller screen and your presentation in a larger screen, so that you can see what you're presenting and still see your attendees at the same time. So that's a very useful extension. This extension is actually one that your students have access to now. So let me show you real quick. I'm going to have to switch the way I'm presenting so that you can actually hear the audio. All right, so now I'm going to choose Chrome tab. Choose my tab. Okay. Are you able to see my tab now? I know sometimes it takes a minute for it to load. Okay, so I'm just going to give you a quick little overview of what your students will be able to do with this Nod extension. We're not going to watch this whole thing. Let me see.
Is going to add features to Google
is going to add features to Google Meet. Now, yesterday's video was about the grid view, and you can see a video up there in the cards, and you can find out more about the grid view. But today's is all about reactions. Now, sometimes we want to gauge the engagement of our students, and we don't necessarily need them to interrupt the flow of the lesson, but they can leave a emoji or a sticker or a reaction. Now, in order for you to activate this within Google Meet, we're going to install the Nod extension.
Oh, I didn't go too far enough. They actually have already installed this for your students, so you don't have to worry about any of that. But I want you to see what it looks like when
so you can see what the standard Google Meet view looks like. Now, because we've just installed a new extension, we are going to have to refresh this page in order to see that extension work. So let's go ahead and refresh the page. And we're going to rejoin this meeting. Now, I am going to turn off the microphone. Now, once that extension is installed, you'll see an additional option in that top left corner. Now, I can click on I like it. You can also say I love it, I'm confused, laughing, well done. or just raise your hand. Now I'm going to do the following. I'm going to raise my hand. There we go. When I click on that, you see on the bottom left corner, everyone gets notified that I've raised my hand. I can also leave all sorts of other reactions. I can leave a little love it, confused, and this really adds that interactivity to a Google Meet that is sometimes a little bit lost.
Okay, so we're going to stop it on that. So I just wanted you to see the options that your students will have in your Google Meet sessions. If they have a question, like I said, they'll have their mic muted, and you don't want them to just unmute and start immediately asking a question, because sometimes more than one student at a time has a question, and all of a sudden it's chaos in your Google Meet and you can't understand. It gets real loud. So, one of those norms that you'd want to teach your students is to use that nod extension that automatically loads in their browser. They won't even have to do anything when they join the Meet. It just shows up as a toolbar at the top left, and they would actually just click the raise hand. And then it would be your choice as to when you have them unmute and ask the question. So that way they're not interrupting you, and you're able to kind of get your lesson completed and then go back and answer questions. Okay, this next extension is one that you teachers will have access to. It is called the Google Meet Attendance Extension. You don't have it pushed out yet because we're testing it out right now just to make sure that all of the kinks are worked out before you have access to it. And then what this does is once you start a Google Meet session, you will then be notified of all of the people that join your session. It will also tell you what time they joined and how long they actually stayed in the session. So if you have a student that isn't able to join right when the meet starts, they had to come in a little bit late, then you know that that student may need some feedback and help you, or you may need to help them understand what they missed in that previous piece of the Google Meet session. Same for those that may have to leave early. You could actually reach out to them, those that weren't able to stay the whole time, and just fill them in on what they may have missed. So that's a very neat extension. Plus, it gives you a list of all of your students that were able to join, so you can kind of keep an eye on those that maybe are not joining your sessions. Because as you know, with Google Meet, only 16 students show on your screen at one time. And so you may not be aware of how many people are joining your Meet as you are going through your session. Okay, we're not going to look at the breakout rooms because the way they have it right now is a little bit complicated, but that's going to be one of those updates that gets added automatically. So, Ms. Chisenhall has found our other extension. Awesome. We're going to go over that in just 1 second. I believe I have that coming up. This Google Meet presenter mode, it's good for right now, but once they send those updates out, it's another extension that you probably won't need to have downloaded onto your Chrome browser because it will be included. And what it does is anyone who is the owner of the Meet, it prevents the participants from being able to mute the person presenting. So that's a very useful tool with your students. You don't want your students to be able to mute you as you're presenting. So that is just called presenter mode. Okay. Actually, I guess I didn't include the Google Meet Plus. Okay. This last slide, it just gives you several other resources that you can use to share either with your students or your parents. If you have lower level students who the parents may actually be helping them join the Google Meet sessions, or you can have in your classroom so that whenever at the beginning of the year, you can go over some of these things. And if we have to switch over to virtual, then that way they'll be aware of how to join those Google Meet sessions and what your expectations are there. And I know I went fast and furious over that. I'm going to let you go ahead and unmute your mic. If you have any questions over Google Meet or over how to complete the activities in the Canvas course for Google Meet, if you'll just let me know, we can switch over and go to, stop presenting. We can switch over and look at that Canvas course if you need to. I'll turn my chat on too. I'm going to take that as you're good with Google Meet. We'll stop. The next piece of this training session is the synchronous versus asynchronous, which is module 2 in your Canvas course. Those of you that want to participate and go ahead and get that get that completed today, you're more than welcome to stay on. We'll take a short little break, just a couple minutes. So if you need to get you a drink or stand up for a minute, we'll take a break now, and then you're more than welcome to stay on for that next session.
Lindsay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
On Monday's lesson, were there any assignments?
No, the only assignments that we have are inside the Canvas course. So each module has one assignment and then one discussion board.
Okay.
But there's not anything other than those. Does that answer that question?
Yes. It's just I got kicked out, so it was just crazy.
Oh, yeah. I saw your email come through. I hadn't had a chance to reach back out to you.
Yeah.
And I saw several were doing that. And I know up until yesterday, we were having some issues. If you had tried to start a Meet to get a Meet link to finish that Module 1 activity, there was an extension that we had added that was, it added a waiting room to your Google Meet session, which is really neat. But there was some little fluky thing going on with it, and it was making everyone, even if you were the owner of the Meet, it pushed you into the waiting room, and then you couldn't even start the meeting yourself. So I had technology go ahead and delete that extension or remove it, and ever since then, it seems like it's working fine. So if you ran into that yesterday, that's what was happening.
Okay. Yeah, it's been good today.
Oh, good. Good.
I joined back today on this second one.
Okay.
On the assignment, I cannot get my video just goes round and round and round and round.
Okay. We will take a look at that.
Well, I talked to Donna. I'm going to go see Donna.
Okay.
With my Chromebook. So I thought, well, I'll listen again before I try it.
Absolutely.
So real quick then, this is Chesnall. Does that mean, I did the link and I added it there. Do you have to do the video too, or just the link to show that you created one?
Just the link. All we need to see is that you knew how to create a Google Meet. It doesn't have to be an actual video of the Meet.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. You guys need a minute before we jump into the next one, or are we good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Lindsay, when you created like the Google Meet, it comes back that it's been graded. That's all we need to know, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Once it's been graded and it says you're complete, then you're good. You can move on to the next one.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to switch over to the synchronous versus asynchronous. And this one always gets me tongue-tied, so hopefully I can speak right today. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my tab again. You know what? Oh, yes, I do need to do tab. Sorry, talking to myself. I've got some audio in this presentation I want you to be able to hear. Okay, and while we're waiting for this to load, yesterday I did have some questions come back on this module, I believe. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going slide by slide because I know you can do that on your own, and that's kind of boring to sit through. So there's several slides on here that are for your resource purposes. If you find something or you're needing a little more information on blended learning, then those slides are great resources to go to. If you have not heard these buzzwords yet, if you listen to anything about education, a podcast, or you follow blogs, all the rage right now is synchronous versus asynchronous learning. And when you put those together, it's actually blended learning that they're talking about. So synchronous learning, all that is that it is like a live session that your students are able to interact with you and other students on a live basis. So they're not having to just sit and read a text or an article and turn in an assignment. they're actually able to interact with those other students or even with yourself. So that is what synchronous learning is. Asynchronous is when they're actually doing the learning on their own. It's not a live interaction. And there's a place for both of these types of learning, obviously, in blended learning. There are times where things such as like a flipped classroom model, asynchronous, maybe you send home an article for them to read the night before, and then when they come back the next day, then you're going to discuss and have more of the synchronous learning taking place. So you can do a blend of both, and that's actually how we get to blended learning. So let's go ahead and jump in. If you have a chance to join this word cloud, let me see if it's going to let me click on it to show you. It may not open for me. Let's see if it'll load first. Oh, no, it's not really loading well for me. So we'll come back to that. But if you have a chance to join that later, it will, it's neat. You're just typing in one word that you think of when you think of student engagement. And so you'll see all of the words that other people have typed in. So we'll come back to that if we have time at the end. Okay, and this is what we've already kind of gone over just here in the beginning. I wanted to show you a visualization of how asynchronous and synchronous learning, when you kind of do a mixture of those two, that's where we end up with blended or our flipped learning. So, you know, we did some different versions of learning over the distance learning process. Was it the most engaging? Probably not, but we did a great job for the amount of time that we had to flip that on a dime. It seems like overnight we went from face-to-face to online and didn't skip a beat. So kudos to you guys for making that happen. In the fall, when hopefully we're coming back face-to-face, if we're not able to come back, or if we come back and then have to switch over to virtual, we really want our students to be familiar with using a blended learning model in the classroom. So that will only help us if we are able to start, day one or, face-to-face, still using that technology in the classroom and showing them how to join the Canvas course and interact in their Canvas course. I did hear something really interesting this morning whenever I was actually listening to one of my podcasts, and it was talking about synchronous and asynchronous and how during distance learning, I'm sure you all are familiar with this, some of those students, they may have been doing the assignments or the activities that you sent out, but they almost were invisible, because if they weren't interacting, if you weren't able to have live conferencing with them, or maybe they weren't responding if you did some discussion boards or questions, they almost become invisible. So we definitely don't want that happening. We want them to feel like they're still part of a community and part of a class with that synchronous learning. But synchronous doesn't just mean video conferencing, jumping on a Google Meet and having real-time lessons every single day. That's not the only way to have synchronous learning. You can utilize those discussion boards to where they're actually still interacting with their classmates. It's just not live or, video. So keep that in mind too as we're going through this. I also included several different models. The most common ones for a blended classroom, where you have your flipped classroom where you actually give the lesson for them to work on, or the instruction the night before or the day before, and then in class you're actually going over the content they should have covered on their own. So, and that's flipping it. And then you have your several different rotation models. And we have your individual rotation where the student is just moving, on their own to different stations. You also have the station rotation where that's more of like your small group instruction. So you have a group of students that are kind of rotating through different stations in your classroom. And then lab rotation, and that's where you stay as an entire class, but maybe you're starting with a lecture or instruction, and then the whole class then switches over to maybe work on their Chromebook or work on some other type of station, but they're staying together. They're not split into groups. So, a blend of all of those is great, or you may choose one that you're most comfortable or familiar with and start there in your classroom. I will say, just know that this upcoming school year, let's see, I'm not sure if we have any elementary teachers in this session. I believe we are all, oh, I actually think we do. Let's see. Yep. Okay. So just know that even from pre-K all the way to 12th grade, we will be one-to-one with Chromebooks this year for students. So every single student will have a device assigned to them. We don't have to worry about carts and things like that, or those elementary teachers who are used to having maybe 4 devices in their classroom to share with 22 kids. That is not an issue this year. So there will be an expectation of some level to use that technology in your classroom, to use Canvas in your classroom, whether we're face-to-face or having to go virtual at some point. So just keep that in mind. I know that those actual expectations have not been pushed out yet. I think they're still, talking that through. And obviously it will vary from the grade level to grade level. You're not going to expect a 4-year-old to sit on a device all day, every day, as, not even a 12th grader would want to do that. So, but there will be some form of Canvas use in your classroom on a consistent basis. But how that looks in your classroom may be different from someone else's classroom. Okay. This next video that we're going to kind of look at, and I'm going to stop them every once in a while to talk about some of the things that they're saying. These are actually Texas teachers that have switched over to blended learning. Some of them did that by choice, and some of them were told to switch to blended learning. And they kind of talk through how their mindset changed. I know none of us really enjoy change, or at least no one that I know. I don't do well with change. And once you kind of get in a groove and it's working, you're thinking, I shouldn't have to change. I mean, what I'm doing is working. But I want you to to listen to some of the things that these teachers talk about and see if they are things that you think of. All of those different expectations that are thrown at you, whether it's intervention or small group instruction, differentiation. And maybe you have a class full of 30 kids and you're wondering how on earth you're going to, help each one of those kids at their level. So they kind of talk about that a little bit in this video. I think it's only like a 2-minute video. So we'll try to watch a little bit of it. Yeah, 3 minutes.
It's reframed the entire way I think about my career.
This is what teaching is about. This is why we got into teaching. We didn't get into teaching for a standardized test. We got into teaching because of the children.
Raising our culture's changing. We're raising the bar, so I would never go back. Blended gives you that opportunity to take it to the next level and raise the bar.
How do you take care of every single student? How do you take care of every single student? And how do you make them successful? That's the mindset that I think should be shifted to.
My only experience in school was someone getting up and teaching and, I take notes and that's how I learned. I never questioned that that wasn't the right way to do it.
Stop it right there for just a second, because what that teacher before this last one said really resonated with me. I can remember being in the classroom and we don't have just one level of students for our entire class. I may have had 4 or 5 ESL students. I may have had 4 or 5 dyslexic students. And then you have some lower level students who need, some major intervention that they were below grade level. And just sitting there and thinking, how am I going to help all of these kids every single day to meet the needs of all of these different levels? And they're going to show you how blended learning can really help in that department. So that's the part that hooked me. I thought you might like to hear that.
I was stuck in the mindset that all students had to do the same thing, right? We had to follow the same curriculum, everybody's got to do the same thing. With this blended kind of mindset, in my opinion, I'm now kind of freaked out to be like, we don't all have to do the same thing. I've got a lot of stuff in my tool bag that I can use for lots of different situations.
For me, it's the leap of faith. You get used to things done this way, and beside you're trained. Now I just see it, and it's totally worth it. And I could toss 14, 15 years away and say, this is the teacher I was meant to be, and this is the teacher I want to be.
Their passion
in their desire to do better. They are owning it. And it's not so much, here, do this paper so that you can learn this stuff. It's like, I want to know this. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's like opening up a book. It's just wonder. And I'm absolutely in love with it. I don't know what I did for 30 years before, but I'm glad I'm doing this now.
Wow.
Because it's amazing.
This year is a complete 180. I'm exhausted, but I am joyful. To me, this is completely intuitive. This is exactly what learning and education should be. It has not been for me as a teacher until this year.
It feels so much more meaningful. I was at a point before I came here that I knew I was a good teacher. I just, I didn't doubt that, but I still felt like, what is it that I'm missing? I felt like they're going through the motions, I'm going through the motions, and once I came here, I felt like now I'm making a difference. So I can't go back to not making a difference.
There we go. Hopefully you can relate to some of the teachers in that video. I know that I sure could. It sounded a lot like what I went through as a classroom teacher. Just that stress of knowing you want to be the best teacher that you can and you want to meet the needs of all of those students in your classroom, but how? And how do you reach, engage and enrich your GT students, and at the same time help those below level students build up and teach them in a way that's going to help them grow as well. So, that's a big struggle that we all have. So they're showing us how blended learning can help us to do that, whether we are face-to-face or virtual. Okay. And on this one, we're not going to go into too much detail. We will have some sessions later this summer that will be optional, that will go, we're going to call it a next level Canvas, where we'll talk about some of the tools that you can do to actually enrich your blended learning model, whether it's interactive hyperdocs or using tools such as Edpuzzle or Padlet or Flipgrid. And we're also I think it's a few weeks from now, one of the sessions that we'll be offering will be how to actually embed these items in your Canvas course so that your kids aren't having to leave Canvas to go do these activities. So we will get to that at a later session. Move on over that. Okay, one of the final things I wanted to talk about before we look at the actual activity that you need to submit in the discussion board is how Canvas fits into all of this blended learning. We know what Canvas does at this point. You understand some of the tools that you might have available to you. But let's think about some of the things that it might take the place of, or how it may actually save you time versus one more thing to do. So some of the things I thought were the neatest, that the greatest way it's going to save time is think of all of those students that come to you and maybe they're out sick for a couple of days, or they missed class for some, they were at a sporting event or something like that. Once you have your activities inside of Canvas, even if you don't use Canvas every single day, if you have those lessons, added to your Canvas course, you don't have to sit there and explain what the assignment was the day before that those students may have missed, or that came in late from, they were doing something before your class that they got held up with. No more of those kids coming up to you right as they walk in the door and say, I missed class yesterday. What did I miss? And having to sit there on a dime and think, oh my goodness, what all did we cover yesterday? If it's all right there in your Canvas course, all they need to do is log into Canvas, and they then are able to work at their own pace, with the material that they missed. So that is one of the neatest. Another great part of Canvas is that it allows you to have that parent-teacher communication. You can actually send out announcements or calendar dates. And once your parents join as what they call an observer to your Canvas course, they won't see anything except for their students' activities and grades, but they will also see all events that you add on the calendar for that course. So they don't have to worry about missing a field trip or any assemblies, you can add all of those on there, as well as due dates for assignments or projects. So that can kind of cut down on the amount of, mass emails you get from parents too. So that's another cool feature. And like I said, we're going to get to all of those individual Canvas features as we go through these sessions. Okay. Like I said, I believe most of you are more secondary. I've got a couple, looks like intermediate and maybe an elementary. So just so we don't leave them out, I know in my head as a former elementary teacher, I always thought, sure, blended learning works. I mean, it's so easy in secondary, which I know it's not now, but in an elementary teacher mind, I'm thinking how much easier it must be for them. But it is possible to have blended learning even when you're face-to-face in your first grade classroom, your kindergarten classroom. And this is actually a teacher who uses blended learning in her classroom every single day with her first graders. So I want you to just hear a little bit of what she has to say, and I'm going to stop her. She's going to say something in a minute that's going to really raise some red flags, and we're going to talk about that because it will not apply to our district. So hold on just one second. Let me mute my mic so you don't get my echo.
This is a first grade classroom with 32 first graders at Fairfield Elementary, and I have.
Did you hear her say 32 first graders in one classroom? Could you imagine 32 first graders? Okay.
Have students that range from English language learners, students with speech needs, and students with all sorts of different needs in here, and they're all able to use Chromebooks. We use them every day first thing in the morning, so after I greet them at the door, they put their backpack away, put their chair down, and then they walk, unplug their Chromebook, use two hands, walk to their desk, open it up, log themselves in, and then do whatever activity is that we're doing. Matthew, thank you for the quiet thumbs up. I will be there in just one moment. The biggest challenge was making sure that I had enough time the first time they logged in. It took about 45 minutes the first time we logged in. The next day it might take 30 minutes, and then it gets shorter and shorter each time. And so to kind of help with that, I trained 5 kids first on how to do it, and they did it a couple of times. And so then while I was teaching the whole class to do it, they were also popping around their table group and helping those students that were having like, oh, I can't find this key, or where's that? And so then they were training each other. So you wrote.
Okay, I am stopping her there because I'm sure you heard just like I did when she said it took 45 minutes to get those students logged in the first time, and then it took 30 and whatever. Please do not stress about that, because in EISD, as you know, we have that program called ClassLink. Hopefully you're all using that at this point. That's how we get into all of our programs. With our younger students, they will actually have a little QR code that is called a quick card. And as soon as they open their Chromebook, they will have ClassLink open up. They will hold that quick card in front of their webcam on their Chromebook without having to type anything in to that ClassLink login page. And it's actually going to log them in directly to ClassLink. They won't have to type in their username or password. It will take them straight to ClassLink. Then, as you know, once they're in ClassLink, they have access to almost every single program that they use without even having to enter a username or password. So please disregard where she said it took 45 minutes, because that won't be the case. Yes, it will, there is a little bit of practice that will have to take place, but once they get the hang of just holding that quick card up and how that works, it'll be easy. They'll be able to do it all on their own, I would say within a day. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at your Canvas activities real quick for this module. So this would have been Module 2. Okay, so I am on the student view for Module 2. And this module was the synchronous versus asynchronous. So we are going to look at the pause and practice activity that it's asking you for. This activity is actually using Edpuzzle, because I wanted you to see it from the, It may not load for me since I'm in student view. Let me take that off. I wanted you to see Edpuzzle from the student view of it inside of Canvas so that you could see that they do not actually have to leave Canvas to use Edpuzzle once you have it embedded. And it's, for some reason, not letting me go into it. Once you go through that Edpuzzle, it's just a quick video, and every couple minutes it will pause and it will ask you a few questions. Let me see if it'll let me do it again. Nope. And you'll just answer the question there, and then once you've answered it and submitted your answer inside of Edpuzzle, then it will go on to the rest of the video. I had it pulled up earlier. I know we've had a few people that have told us they completed all of Edpuzzle, and for some reason it wasn't showing completed inside of Canvas. And don't stress if that happens, because we are able to go inside of Edpuzzle and see it on that format and see that you answered your questions. It'll show us. And so then all we do is change inside of Canvas and we'll mark it completed. So if you get that alert, don't worry. We'll go in and check and make sure that your answers actually were submitted. And it's still not going to let me since I'm on student view. So that's all you need to know about that activity. And let me look at the discussion real quick. Make sure I was clear on that. Okay, so in your discussion prompt, this is the prompt or the question that we want you to think about. When you are ready to answer those or to provide some feedback on that, you will just click reply, and it will open up a text box for you to be able to reply just like this. Once you are finished with your reply, you just click this post reply button and it'll send it in. As soon as you post your response, then you will then have access to other responses from the other teachers. So feel free, we've opened it up to where you can actually go in and respond to teachers if you want, or if they have an idea or a way of thinking that you had not thought about and you want to talk to them about it more, you could actually go in and reply to their discussions, but that part is not required. To get your completion grade for this part of it, all you need to do is respond with your own discussion answer. So hopefully that clears that up a little bit. I'll leave student view. I'm going to go ahead and stop presenting. Switch back over. All right. Well, that's amazing. That was right at 11 o'clock. Perfect. Does anyone have any questions or comments that we need to talk about? Did I clear things up if you were having some questions?
Lindsay, on that last bit, it was like still on the student view, so I couldn't see how to add my discussion.
Okay, so what you'll do right underneath the box that has, I think it has my picture in it and it has the question, there should be a little button that says reply, and it's got like an arrow. Once you click that, then the text box will open up for you to type in.
Okay, thank you.
Does that work? Perfect. You're welcome.
I hope so.
Lindsay, you said like Edpuzzle will have more, maybe a course on that, because I looked at that yesterday. And I looked at one online that had the math using Smartboard and adding and that was neat.
Yes, yeah, it's got some really cool stuff in it. What I used for this course is free. I don't have a paid version for Edpuzzle. So they have tons of resources that are just in their free program too. You don't actually have to buy a license if you don't want to. So it's awesome. But yes, that'll be part of, I believe it's module 9. So it's not actually posted yet. I will have 9 and 10 posted by the end of today. So if you start just flying through some of these modules, those 2 are not posted yet, but they will be at the end of the day. But yes, we'll have live on those. And then, like I said, I'm also planning on later on, once I'm not overwhelming all of you guys with all of these different sessions that you can join, we will have some optional training sessions too, where you can join in if you're ready to kind of go to some next level in Canvas. Maybe it's adding different graphics or buttons, or like Edpuzzle, Flipgrid, those types of things that aren't necessarily required to use inside of Canvas, but just add a new little, more engaging content to it. So we will have some sessions on those that you're able to join. Those sessions will also be recorded, and we'll have those posted too. So if you're not able to join live, you would still be able to see the video of this training. All right, guys. Well, if you don't have any other questions or concerns, I guess we can go ahead and end this meet. So if you will go down to the bottom of your screen. Let me make sure I did my attendance here. Yep. All good. Okay, so if you hover over the bottom part of your screen and just click that red telephone, that will actually let you leave this session.
Why am I not finding it?
Mine keeps going away. I actually have to click at the bottom of my screen for it to pop up. You see it now? There.